Welcome to the Vinny Rock Podcast.
Much more than this, I did it my way.
Hey, what up, dudes? It's been a little crazy for me, man. Sorry I have not been on the podcast. I've actually sent the files for Strange Things to my audio guy, and then right before I took off on vacation, and it wasn't really a vacation, I went off to Tennessee to work with Rated Red to film another portion of my little cooking show. But then for some reason he didn't get it. I didn't bring my laptop, so everything got kind of fucked. So, you know, a bit late and $1 short. But I just got it out today. All I did was put the front end and the back intro, outro on myself, and hopefully it sounds good enough. That's such a cool podcast, Strange Things 2, with my man. I refuse to name by name, but by Mr. Strange. Pretty cool stuff. Hey, this is just a Vinny thinking. I just want to catch you guys up on kind of a lot that's going on in my life and just kind of maybe tell you a little story here and there. But so the past few weeks, I've been finishing up, a show that I'm working on. I still can't release the information on, and that got finally wrapped. So I'm excited about that. And this isn't the Mayans MC, something completely different. And then I flew out to Nashville and worked on my cooking show because the cooking shows got picked up for some reason by Rated Red again. So I just went and did that. And then in talks with Rated Red, working with them a little bit more. I am working on selling a few show concepts that I've written myself, and as well as now I'm finally going to be able to take vacation. I'll be taking my laptop and my microphones with me, so hopefully if I run into some cool people, we'll sit down and do a podcast for you guys. I know I've been a little slow on the podcast, and it's only because I've just been so damn busy. I'm trying to find a way to just do call-ins because it'll make your life a lot easier. I just got to make sure that the audio is clean. That's one of the importance of what I'm doing here is trying to give you them clean audio. And so I might have to sacrifice some clean audio to get some telephone interviews in, but I think it's going to be worth it because I'm able to reach out with some cool people by phone and have a cool conversation, even if it's just a 10, 15-minute conversation. But we'll be doing that here shortly. Yeah, and that's pretty much it, man. It's funny. I keep getting messages about me being a corrections officer. And there's guys out there that's done some really cool corrections officer work. Dude, just a few off the top of my head. I mean, they've worked at Department of DOC, Department of Corrections. They've done what does it say? You can work federal things like that, man. My man Chris, if you guys check him out on freaking Instagram, it's Ginger Beard Barbell. I mean, this dude's a fucking monster. I don't even know how much he weighs, but he's probably around, I'm going to say he's around 270, fully fucking stacked, and an amazing beard. He's one of our ambassadors for beard.com, as well as straight razors and everything else, all associated with the same brand. But beard.com is one of our, I guess ambassadors, man. He's kind of the dude that's putting beard.com on the map. And he asked me, man, he wanted to hear some more corrections stories. So you guys, I got out of the military in 2007. I think I got it in June, and July was my actual, July, I think 17 was my actual last day in active duty, but I had like the terminal leave. So I was about a month early. It was about 45 days, really what it was. What happened was I was applying to like 6, 7, 8, 9 fucking different jobs, man. I swear I had applications everywhere. And when I say that, like, I applied to do some framing. My dad used to be a framer. I know very little of it, but I thought like it'd be cool to learn. I went to a couple car dealerships, being a car salesman. I just thought it'd be fun to do, and I feel like I can sell anything, right? So I was like, well, that'd be fun to do. I applied at restaurants everywhere. And the one that got me the job the fastest was a company called Cintas. They were hiring military guys out of the military that are coming straight out of the military. But the problem was, like, it was selling medical supplies and doing CPR lessons. I wasn't a fan of it, but shit, I'll tell you what. I got to Arizona. I think it was like June 20th or some shit. And then, like, the next day I was in my interview. They gave me the job, and the next week I started. So, I mean, you can't beat getting paid right off the bat. So I jumped in with them, worked for them for about 30 days while I applied for other jobs. I ended up reaching out to a prison. It was a private prison called CCA. It's, I think it's Corrections Corporation of America. And it's one of those private prisons. And if you guys don't know what a private prison is, it's kind of a weird, man. It's hard to say like what a private prison. A private prison is essentially a company, a business that offers the state some relief in cost of living for the inmates. So break it down easy. California, it probably costs somewhere around $15 to $20 a day to house an inmate. That means food, that means lights, that means everything, right? Room and board, food, $20 a day. In a private prison, they offer them a better option for cheaper. So say, hey, we'll do it for $10 a day, and they say okay, and so they sign a contract, and then CCA will house those inmates for the duration of that contract until contracts are renegotiated. And this happens throughout all private prisons. CCA is one of them. Then you got, what is it, GCU or GUC? There's several other businesses out there that are just completely for-profit prisons. It's kind of a weird concept. So in doing that, they don't have a normal academy. So my academy for the prison was sit there and watch videos all day, and then the first day was like 30 days in or 15 days in, we show up into the prison and start watching them do a shakedown. And then they started having us do hands-on, and we start learning it and slowly get thrown right into the pipe. Obviously, this is not the most comfortable situation for someone like me who I've been to basic training and then later on get into law enforcement and see what the academies are for and to prepare and to set you up for success. CCA's was a little different for me. And also knowing we had guys that were over 50, over 60 joining CCA group, joining the CCA lineup that didn't have to be physically fit. They just had to be able to, I guess, essentially have a heartbeat, which is cool on some points, right? There were some guys that were veterans. My buddy, he was a 25-year vet, Vietnam vet, fucking a Huey pilot. And, I got to sit there with him and hang out, and he was an awesome fucking dude. But the fact that he was good at the job as well. But when it came down to it, from the beginning of me being on the floor, I was the guy they called for all the fights and try to break it up, and also generating a team to go in on someone. So I got a job with CCA. I quit Cintas, went to CCA, did the academy. I felt like a badass because I was pretty fucking ready to go fuck some dudes up. And there's times when I was definitely intimidated. But as soon as I get there, I find out they have a special operations team. They call it SORT. Special Operations Response Team. That's what it was. And it's kind of funny how a lot of special operations teams, the dudes who are on those teams have this very cocky, they're too good for anyone else demeanor. And there was definitely a few of those fucking dudes on that team that it was pretty funny that acted like that. My whole goal with CCA was really just to get my foot in the door. Right after I got in with CCA, I applied for the Border Patrol already. So it wasn't a long-term thing. The only reason I was there as long as I was because it took so long to get into the Border Patrol. The hiring process for the Border Patrol took forever. I was hoping just to do it for about 6 months to a year, learn everything I can, and then get away. I ended up doing it for about 2.5 years, almost 3 years. A small portion of the time I spent in drill sergeant school during the time I was there. But so after 6 months, let's just go here. The first month of working there, all right, I've already done 2 cell extractions as a new guy because I'm at the time, I think I'm around, 28, 29. I'm probably like 28, 27, 28. Still, I'm in good shape. Just freshly out of the military. Still got, little piss and vinegar inside of me from deployments. I just got back from Afghanistan fucking like 2 months before that. So they asked me to take charge on some of the some of the response team stuff. And we get some cell extractions done too easy. And then one night, I'm working night shift. And you always got to start night shift, it seemed like. So then one night I get a call. And some of you, if you guys heard the Drinker Bros podcast, you've probably heard this story. I get the call that there is a cell extraction needed in segregation. And I needed to get a team together that I trusted, and we're going to go in on these guys. And it's going to be a 2-man pod, so that means you need double the people, right? So normally I think with one guy you want 4 guys. I think with 2 guys you get 6, I believe it was. Maybe it's 8. I can't remember. So I picked from what I had, right? The hodgepodge of dudes working night shift that I trusted, even females that were tough enough to get in there, I was going to try and pick from. I picked one guy they picked for me. His name was Stogner. He's about easily almost 350. The guy was not my choice, but he was a good shield guy, so he was my number 1 shield guy. Number 2, I can't even remember who the guy was. Number 3, I picked a guy named Lada. Lada was a military ex-Army airborne dude, 82nd Airborne Cat, so obviously he's the one guy that I relied on a lot that night. I actually worked with his little brother, I went to basic training with his little brother, eventually, who came work for us again later, and joined the SORT team and actually broke my record, so, in the PT test. But either way, then we have just the rest of random-ass dudes, and I can't even remember who the fuck they were, really. And so, as we get to the fucking segregation, I'm the TL. And the captain is one of the guys that are actually on the SORT team, but he's not suited up in his team because he didn't think he needed to respond to them. He's just like, hey, I think we can handle it. What do you think? I'm like, yeah, fuck it, dude. This is going to be cool. So I go up to the pod, and I hear them just causing a ruckus in there, man. And they put toilet paper over their little window. And so I kind of like try to peek in and look, and I caught a small glimpse of both of these dudes, man. All right? And I got a little bit of an assessment of who they were. And now knowing it's pretty even crazy, but one of the guys, the main guy that we're going after, was in for murder, and his murder was pretty gruesome. He was an Indian. He was a native, and at the time you could actually go Google their names, and every year they release these documents explaining to you. It's like open source. They'll tell you every native in Arizona that when it did a crime, what their name was and what the crime was. It's pretty crazy. So eventually I went and looked it up, and this guy did a very, very gruesome murder. And his partner in there was in for attempted murder. And so I looked in there and see these guys all suited up. I'm talking, when I say suited up, they're ninja styled. They had their sandals were cut in half as elbow pads and knee pads, and they were held on by pieces of sheets. Their faces were wrapped in sheets. Their bellies were wrapped in sheets, and they were like just completely covered up, ready to take an ass whooping in order to fucking fight back. They broke their toilet, which here's the weirdest thing I've ever seen. A porcelain toilet in segregation is probably the worst decision ever made. And so there was porcelain all over in shards, big pieces of toilet all over the floor, and in the back window, it sounded like they were trying to break the back little windows, which they're probably only like 3-inch windows, but they're the length of the room in the back. They can't escape from them, but they can just throw shit out the back, whatever the case. So I look, I'm like, holy shit, all right. And I tell everyone in my line, I'm like, hey, get ready. This is going to be this is a legit one. So in the system, when it comes to clearing a room, I'm going to use the words clearing a room or taking control of the room in a corrections facility. The first 2 guys are shield guys. The first 2 shield guys are supposed to, 1, pin the combatants against the wall so then the other guys can come and grab control. You want full limb control. You want to grab the left side, the left arm, the left leg, the right. You see what I'm saying? So just get control of the combatant, so then we can put cuffs on him. That's all you're trying to do is control the situation. So as I look in there, I'm thinking, all right, cool, let's throw some gas in this fucking room, right? And so the captain at the time opens up the food trap and drops a can of gas in there, and we're thinking it's going to do the trick. Again, I'm within a month of doing this job, 2 months, I'm fucking fresh, and I don't know any of the rules behind OCCS. Those are the types of gas you can use on combatants or inmates, and so I'm sitting there, cool, that was cool. He threw a can of gas in there, these guys are going to give up. All of a sudden I can hear the gas can either get thrown somewhere. I heard it go in between, like, and it sounded like, and so I was like, oh shit, they either threw it down the toilet, which I don't know if that's even possible because they just fucking broke the toilet, or they threw it out the back window. So I have no fucking clue. I'm like, hey, I think they fucking threw it somewhere. He's like, shit, what do you want to do? I was like, I don't fucking know. So as a captain, before any kind of cell entry, you have to give them all their fair warnings. If they don't cover up, we're going to do this. If they don't cover up, we're going to do this. So it's all these And it's also documented through videotape and everything else and what goes down. And so he tells them, one more chance and we're going to come in there. And he opens up the food trap. And I'm standing by the food trap with him trying to look and see what I can see. I'm trying to assess the situation so I can make the best decision for my team and myself. And I'm kind of excited. It feels reminiscent of clearing a room, right? It feels reminiscent of fucking entering, clearing a building or slash my combative classes of entering, clearing buildings. It's very similar feeling. And so then he opens up the food trap, and then boom, half a toilet comes flying out of that motherfucker, hits him in the arm, hits me in the leg, and we're like, oh shit. And he goes, well, I guess they have nothing else to throw at us. Let's go. And he opens up the fucking door, bro. Oh my God. He opens up this door. The first two men in, since I am the team leader, I'm the third guy in. I'll be going in third to control the situation, blah, 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 blah. As I go in there, the first guy goes and fucking falls down. The second guy falls down. Then here comes and it's me face to face with the guy that's committed murder. And I see him winging something at me, and I'm like, what the fuck is he hitting me with? Or what the hell? Everything goes slow motion. For me, this is actually the most intimate engagement of my life. In the military, you have a gun, you have your friends, you have everything. Right now, it's me and a dude, no gun, just my hands, and trying to slow down the threat. And I realize in that slow motion state that he's hitting me with whatever he has in the sock. Later, come to find out it's a small piece of the porcelain toilet. But I'm pretty suited up, right? I have my chest protector on, I have my helmet on, I have my shin guards on. What doesn't have elbow pads, knee pads, right? What I don't have is like thigh protection and rib protection, right? It's just something that those bodysuits didn't make. And so I feel it hitting me, and I also was just numb to the whole everything going around. Everyone's trying to get into the room. Everyone's trying to get off the floor. They oiled up the floor with soap, and so it was slippery. And so then at this point, I realized I'm getting fucked up by a fucking bad dude. And I'm not sure where this is going, but I started realizing, like, okay, this is actually trouble. I need to do something. And you're not supposed to close fist punch anyone, close fist strike anyone. You're supposed to kind of just grab hold, whatever the case. Well, I fucking... I grabbed him by his chest and just started swinging away. I just started fucking hitting him right in the face, like almost like hockey-style fighting, where one hand is holding on to him, the other hand is just fucking drilling him. And I think he's hitting me at the same time. I can't even remember. But all I know is that after about 4 or 5 solid strikes, thinking like this guy's not going down, now what, right? We both slip and fall. And when we both slip and fall, he posts his arm out to catch us, and he dislocates his shoulder. But I'm still fucking going all 100% maniac on the dude, and just like, now I'm gorilla slamming him. Like my hands are I'm just slamming downward, like palm strikes to his fucking chest, to his fucking hips, to whatever I can fucking do, because I'm sliding all over the floor. He's screaming now, and I don't fucking hear it because I hear all the commotion of the other group trying to slow down the other inmate who's trying to make his way outside of the cell so he can raise havoc out there. They're holding him in and pulling him back in. Finally, as I'm fucking just kind of gorilla slamming this fucking dude, my buddy Lara, the 82nd Airborne, he goes, he's good. And I was like, okay. And I fucking backed off, and then we cuffed him and threw him outside. And it was just like, what the fuck? I mean, I'm telling you this, man. You get a job as a corrections officer, and you're fucking within the first 45 days on the job. You experience that. You second guess coming back to work. You second like, I'm not getting paid good enough for this. Like, there's no way I'm getting paid good enough to be 45 days in, have 3 different cell extractions, and this shit go down. And then, so after you're done with the cell extraction, they were like, hey, you got to go to the nurses to get checked. I'm like, okay. So we took off all the gear. This dude continued being an ass. I dropped him again one more time in the alleyway. He kicked a nurse, and so when he kicked a nurse, I slammed him again, put my forearm onto his fucking throat, told him, are you done? He's like, I'm done. And I just put him back up. And this guy still has a dislocated shoulder, like he's a fucking nut. But yeah, he kicked a fucking nurse, so slammed him. Taking him outside on the way to the fucking, I dropped him again. We had to drop him again because he was kicking and screaming again, fucking going nuts. We had to fucking calm him down. It was fucking crazy. So then he finally calms down. We get out of our turtle outfits and go get checked by the nurses, and that's where I fucking noticed the bruises on my hips and thighs, and kind of like up towards my rib area. And they were like, what happened? I was like, I don't know. I started piecing it together because it was such a fucking crazy little moment. I forgot a lot of it. I didn't even know what happened. And they were telling me, like, hey, you did this, this happened. Later on, we got to watch the video. Well, the cameraman was fucking shaking all over the damn place. So you barely saw what was going on with me. You saw what was going on with the other guy who was trying to get out of the room. It was pretty fucking nutty. And I remember that day driving home, thinking, I guess everything calming down, the adrenaline going away, and really coming to like, holy shit, dude. You know, I got a job as a corrections officer because I wanted to fucking do cool shit, but I did not know that all that would go down. And then later on, getting training, I ended up getting onto the SWAT team a couple months later, like six months later, somewhat, and learning about OCCS and what we could have done. And I would have rewrote an SOPs on exactly how to do that, because reality is if you're using CS or OC, there's a certain amount of time frame you're allowed to let them cook in it. Like, they can sit in it. And I would have put a lot more OCCS. I probably would have hit them with the PLS systems, which is your pepper ball systems. I would have fucking fully engulfed those dudes and gave them the time to sober up and relax before I'd even get them out of there, so you don't cause harm to your dudes. And if you guys are corrections officers, I'd look into even if you're not qualified to use OCCS, you should know what the policies are on how long you can keep them in their cell contaminated. For CS, if you open up a food trap, that alone has implements more oxygen into the room and gives them longer time you can keep them contaminated. I think little small tricks like that can keep you safe. There's no way anyone should ever go into a cell with an inmate on an even queue. It's just ridiculous, right? Like, if you can't use OCCS because they have an asthmatic issue, well, then you use a shock shield, a stun shield, whatever they want to call it. There's a lot of ways of working with that. It's just I would never. There's no way I would ever send it. If it was me again, if I could, hindsight 2020, I would implement as much OCCS as I could, and then get them to cuff up and be done with it. Yeah, you might have your scuffles in the rooms here and there, but going into the room, it was a pretty dangerous of us to do that when they were on the same level as we were. It's like in the military, you go into a room, you flash bang it, you use the act of surprise, you use violence of action, all these different things that you use to put yourself in a little bit better advantage than your threat. And it's the same with in the prison. I mean, I think months later when I was on the SWAT team, we got called into kind of like a prison riot. And it's funny how I'm so in that space, in the terrifying space of the wild shit. That's when I fucking just seem to be most comfortable or like. And there's these rooms called gang pods, and they'd have about 12 to 16 guys in these rooms. I think it was something like that. And they try to barricade their doors. Eventually, we were able to drill a hole through one of the plexiglass windows, drop some gas in there. They're ready to submit. Once we were able to rip the door open, I jump in there and just start snatching motherfuckers up and throwing them out. But it's just like, they were like, dude, it was crazy you jumped in. I was like, I don't know. I felt like it was the right thing to do. Is someone step into that room. They've already submitted to us to start taking control. So I started controlling, dominating the room, and getting one at a time to walk to me as I threw them out there, cuffed and threw them out. And so it was pretty cool. But crazy working at a prison like that, man. If you're working at a state prison or a federal prison, I believe they're a little bit more stringent on how they do things like that. I think everyone has the ability or potential possibility to be on a team to enter to cell extract, but it's important to call guys that are going to be trained in that and knowing how to use OCCS and using it the right way. There's no way you should ever enter and a motherfucker is just sitting there waiting for you. It's fucking dangerous. I don't know, it's pretty wild. It took me a little while to shake that. Eventually I talked to my buddy who was just like, that's probably going to be the worst cell extraction you've ever seen and the hardest cell extraction you'll ever do. He was like, and then you did well, and so don't worry about it ever again. You know. After that, I went on to do, I don't know, multiple other cell extractions. None were ever that crazy. None were actually crazy at all after that. You know, you spray a dude good enough, they cuff up. We had, Fisher. There's one guy named Fisher, though. He was a crazy bastard. He threw piss at me once. Fisher was one of those guys where we actually had to drive 9 hours to go pick him up one time because he overran a native prison. And once we were able to get a hold of that guy, we had to transport him to us, and he caused hell in our prison for a while. Yeah, crazy. I don't know, guys. That's just me doing some Vinny thinking. You guys are interested about the corrections. I think it's a cool job. Check them all out. If you guys are interested in doing some private prison stuff, just know what you're getting into. It's not a bad thing. They pay well, but at the same time, for me, I use it as a stepping stool to jump onto something different. It helped me get into the Border Patrol. It helped me see things differently. If you're a corrections officer and you know how to handle yourself in a room full of inmates, it makes yourself more successful as a law enforcement officer to walk into a room and be comfortable. I didn't have to use my fucking attitude. I didn't have to use my power to control a room. I was able to communicate the way I needed to get my point across, and officer presence helped a lot with that as well. I remember my first time jumping in a group of over 40 illegal documented aliens. It wasn't a stress for me. It was, all right, cool, line up here, and I was able to control the situation because of the fact I've been in that situation. But now I have a gun, I have this, I have that, I have all kinds of other things protecting me. In the prison, you only had a radio. And so I think it was a good thing. I recommend anyone that wants to do law enforcement, I think you should start in the corrections world. Learn as much as you can. I give those guys all the credit in the world. I think when I'm all said and done with everything that I'm doing, I'll probably jump back into the corrections and just ride it out, man. Why the fuck not? Hey, man, this is me, Vinny, thinking. Love you guys. Thank you for listening to the Vinny Rock Podcast. You guys know who our sponsors are? Let me actually throw that in there. You guys know who our sponsors are. We got Lead Slingers Whiskey. Obviously, it's always going to be. If you guys need help finding that, let me know. We have Warfighter Tobacco. Warfighter Tobacco is, hands down, one of the best cigars I've ever smoked in my life, especially having things like the Victory and the new blends we have from Nicaragua. They're just amazing. Those guys got some cool things going. Like, you can't slow those dudes down, man. Scott, George, John, all the guys are kicking ass over there. They're doing their trips and picking up those cigars by hand, pretty much. They're going to picking out which ones they want and how they want to do it, and it's just been such a cool thing to see. You got beer.com. Beer.com is one of our sponsors. You guys can use Rocco for 10% off if you guys need to for the Christmas time. Man, you got Lisa, the Lisa beds. You guys know already. I've talked about it before. It's one of the most comfortable beds I've ever used in my entire life. The promo code is VinnyRock. You can get $100 off on one of the beds or $200 off the bigger size beds. But just let me know if you have questions on that. That's Lisa. That is Leesa beds. Bed in a box. They show up to your house. You put it in your bed, and again, like I said, you'll never regret the sleep that you get. You got Combat Flip Flops. Don't forget those guys. Those are two Army Rangers doing their thing with one of their buddies who was a bass player, making cool shit in dangerous places. So check out Combat Flip Flops. Those guys are solid dudes. I've become closer and closer with those guys, and they've helped me throughout the way in business as well. Promo code is Rocco30. Get yourself some. True North Motor Company. Check out True North Motor Company. Like I said, on Sundays, if you're in the Salt Lake area and you want to ride, True North usually goes for a nice ride. Don't forget Freedom Jerky, freedomjerky.com. It is a 100% freaking U.S. made beef jerky. This company is owned by me and a few other guys, and essentially the money for this goes into the nonprofit. Like, this is how we're going to be funding a nonprofit. And then you got another nonprofit out there called Hero Sports, herosports.org. We do sports for veterans anywhere we can. We're starting up to try and sponsor a hockey team here in Salt Lake City. Hopefully we get that done after the holidays. And you got Willie Pete's chocolate. Don't forget Willie Pete's chocolate. Willie Pete makes some of this chocolate all at his house, all into the garden that he does for himself, from jalapenos to ghost peppers to he also has the Reaper, all kinds of cool stuff. Go check out Willie Pete's chocolate. That guy does it all out of his house. I just love supporting smaller companies like that. And if you want to be a sponsor of the Vinny Rock Podcast, please let me know. There's no sponsorship that is too small. I'm here to support the community, here to support you guys because you support me. It's not about bringing in these big brands. I don't care. If you're a small company that wants some love on the Vinny Rock Podcast, we can work out something. I'll help you out. You help me, and we do it, man. But again, thanks for listening. I love you guys. Just a small Vinny Rock Podcast. Bye.